Well, thank you and good morning. And it's wonderful to be back in this wonderful country after 7 years. It's been too long since I've been here. It's always nice to come back. This is a fantastic forum. There's got to be 500 people in here, and it is really good to see the police force come together to share ideas and to talk about issues. And for me, as Commissioner of Police in Western Australia, I'm here to say some things to you, but I'm also here to learn some things from you as well, because policing wherever you are, whether it's the Maldives or whether it's Australia or whether it's the UK, is very much the same. We are doing the same thing. We are facing the same challenges. We are dealing with the same types of people, and we are dealing with the same types of problems. And so we have lots to share and lots of ideas. And your police force is quite a young police force. It's only a little bit more than 10 years old, and that is challenging for you as you go through all of the steps that it takes to become a modern police force, to become an efficient, excellent police force that the community of the Maldives respects. And that's really where we want to be. I think I always talk about where police forces started in the world, and really modern police forces started in the UK, in London, and they were founded by a person called Sir Robert Peel. And one of the things he said, and I've read his work and I've never forgotten, is that the police are the people and the people are the police. You are citizens of the Maldives. I am a citizen of Australia, and there are lots of other citizens of the Maldives out there who look to you for leadership, who look to you to help them, who look to you to give them advice, and who look to you at all times to be good at what you do, to have compassion. And I noticed when I came in here this morning and saw these 4 values, they are very similar to the values we have in Western Australia. And I want to talk to some of these values this morning, because the ones about people, compassion and respect, are really tells us a lot about what policing is about. It is about working with people. It is about having respect for them. It is about treating them with respect. And in a democracy, I was asked to talk about emerging democracies. In a democracy, we have to treat people properly. We have to have a duty of care. We have to use our powers with consideration. We have to only use our powers when it's necessary. We have to use of force very carefully, because we are, bear in mind, we are the people of the Maldives, and we're working with the people of the Maldives. And that's really important, and it's something for us to consider. One of the things that comes in a democracy with that use of power and with the ability to use force is accountability. All of us have to be prepared to be accountable, to explain why we are using our powers, how we have used our powers. And as modern police forces develop, one of the challenges for me is to continue to explain to the community the way we do our work. What will happen, and I'm not sure about whether it's happened yet in the Maldives, but it certainly has happened in Australia, is as the democracy emerges, the media will become more interested in what you do. The media will want to ask questions about what you do. They will want to write about you in the newspaper. They will want to put you on the television. And they will want to ask questions of your executive, your commissioner, and there will be challenges and tensions because the media consider that they have a role to play in a democracy, in reporting the truth, in reporting what goes on. And that can be really challenging, and is still challenging for me after 10 years or more as a Commissioner in Western Australia. Every day we're dealing with the media. Every day we're explaining to the people of Western Australia why we did a certain thing, how we did a certain thing, and if it's gone wrong, how we're going to make sure that in the future it is fixed and it goes right. And that's, I think, one of the big challenges for modern democracies and modern police forces is accountability and openness, and being comfortable with the fact that we will be watched very carefully, we will be scrutinised, we will be asked questions, and we have to report publicly on what we do and be comfortable with that. One of the ways that I think about my role as Police Commissioner, if I'm about to make a decision or I'm about to do something, is to think to myself, what would this decision look like if it was on the front of tomorrow's newspaper? What would this decision look like if it was the headlines on the television news tonight? And when you use your powers and you exercise your powers out on the street, sometimes it's a good thing to ask yourself, if this was being put on the TV tonight, what would it look like? What would the people who live in the Maldives think of what I'm about to do and what I'm doing here now? That's really what democracy is about, is that level of accountability, and it makes it really difficult. It puts pressure on people in the police force that other government agencies don't have. And it means that we need to be excellent at what we do and think about what we do at all times. I think what we see in the Maldives is still changes of instability. So governments have changed quite a bit in the last 10 years. And so what that means is it has an impact on your executive and your command. And over time that will become more stable. And that's really important, because if you have a strategic plan in place, you want to be able to deliver that strategic plan. Most police forces in the world at the moment are facing some sort of economic crisis. Western Australia is, all of Australia is, the UK is, the USA is, and I think the Maldives is or will be as well. And so governments will be looking for more from their police forces than perhaps they've ever done. And that's going to be a challenge for us also. I suppose there's less resources in government than there has been over the last few years. And so governments will be looking for a way to make us more efficient, to make us more effective. And you have a big role to play in that. One of the things that we found in Western Australia when we wanted to change the police force, when we wanted to improve the police force and make it more efficient, is that the best ideas don't always come from the Commissioner of Police. Strangely enough, I don't have all the best ideas in the West Australia Police, neither do the executive. Some of the people who had the best ideas, in fact, most of the people who had the best ideas were the officers on the streets doing the job every day. Because if you're an officer on the street policing, you can see what works, you can see what doesn't work, you can see what stops you from doing your work properly, and you can actually report that. You can say, in Western Australia, you can say, I think we could do this better. So we have a process where officers can make suggestions and make ideas for change, and a lot of those ideas will result in better policing, so police officers being more efficient. Because at the end of the day, what we really want to do as a police force is, and you heard in the introduction, they were talking about back to basics. Back to basics means getting the police on the streets to do what they do best. Not to have police in offices, not to have police behind desks, not to have police removed from the public eye. It is about getting the police out on the streets with the community to talk to the community and help them with the sorts of challenges that they face. And that for me has been a challenge, because most police forces, and I think this police force is the same, have a lot of officers that are not on the street, are not using their full powers, are not interacting with or working with the public every day. And I think that's a really important thing to change in police forces. There are people in police forces who do administrative work, and there are police officers who wear blue shirts in this police force and wear blue shirts in Western Australia, who should be out on the street working with the public. And I think one of the things I said to the executive group this morning is, if you get the support of the public, then you will get the support of government, and you will get more resources and government wanting you to do more of what is good for the community of the Maldives. And a lot of what we've been doing is trying to get the public to understand what police do and get the public on side, get them supporting the police. Because in the end, that's the most important thing you can do as officers in the Maldives Police Force. I think we're going to see a lot of change over the next few years, and that's not because people want to change things in the police force. Sometimes it's done outside. So government will put pressure on the Maldives Police Force to change. It will put pressure on the Maldives Police Force to become more efficient. Government in Western Australia has done exactly that, and we've had to look at what we do. We've had to look at whether we can do things better. And that means that one of the things that will be very interesting to government is performance. How well you perform, how well you meet the strategic plan, how well you meet the outcomes that are set for the Maldives Police Force. And a lot of the work that you do will be around delivering those outcomes for the Commissioner of Police and for the Executive, and delivering the outcomes for government. And that's sometimes a bit of a challenge from where police forces have come. If I go back 10 or 15 years, as a police force, we just went out and we responded to crime, we investigated crime, we prosecuted people, and we brought them to justice. But these days it's more complicated. Government wants to know, how much does it cost? How quickly do you get there? How confident are the public in what you do? How efficient are you? How many of this have you done? How much of that have you done? And whether you like it or not as a police officer, it is one of the challenges of modern policing, is that people will want to measure what you do. And that will mean that your performance will have to be very good. And that will mean that your supervisors will have to monitor your performance to make sure that you do reach certain goals and you do reach certain levels. And that is a challenge of modern policing. It's no longer just about doing the job. It's about doing the job and being accountable for the job and being able to prove that you've achieved certain things, or the things that have been set by government. And that can be a bit of a challenge. I know in Western Australia we get measured on all sorts of things. So we'll get measured on how long it takes us to get to a priority 1 job, how long it takes us to get to a priority 2 job, how long it takes us to prosecute someone for a certain offence, how many fatal traffic crashes or traffic crash deaths there are every year. All of these things are measured, and we, at least the Commissioner of Police and the Executive, have to go into Parliament every year to prove that they have achieved the things that they set out to achieve. And that really means that all of us in policing have to have a new way of thinking about policing. So it is about the community, but part of being accountable to the community is being accountable to government for the use of government resources and making sure that those things are properly used. Because after all, it's the people that are paying the taxes, and the taxes coming to the police force to be able to deliver a really good service. And a lot of our reform has been about asking those sorts of questions, going to every group in the police force and saying, what do you do? Why do you do it? Can you do it better? Can you do it more efficiently? And I think the other thing that's really important is something which I speak to everyone about, and this is loyalty. If you're in the executive of the police, the executive need to be loyal to each other and loyal to the Commissioner. But if you're anywhere in the police force and police officers have to be loyal to the executive team, to their commanders, to their supervisors, to the Commissioner, and to the strategic plan that's set by the police force. If it is that we have to do certain things, then we must make sure we do that. Because if you can't be loyal and you're not committed to those ideals and you're not committed to that direction, then you shouldn't be a police officer in the modern police force, and you need to think about that. Because a police force can only work when everyone is loyal to each other. One of the things about police forces is that we need to support each other. We need to be there for each other, but we also need to understand the goals of the police force and where we're going. And the rewards for that are really important, because when police forces are working very well, the rewards back to the individuals, the people who work there, are good. You're more likely to get support from government for a pay rise, for argument's sake, if the police force is working very well. If the police force is more efficient, there is more flexibility in government to be able to use some money to pay officers more money, or to give them better conditions, or to give them better cars, or to give them better uniforms. And it's one of the things that we have to think about, is that if you think that there's money in the budget for policing, the more money that you can make available for the resources that you use, the better your working environment will be. And so, we're all having to think about these things in a modern police force. The other thing which I think is really important and fits into really the compassion and respect is that you're all leaders. You're all leaders in your community, and the community are looking up to you for direction, for support, for leadership, and for compassion. And that's something that you can never forget about, that you're always in the public eye when you're out on the street. People are always making decisions about how fairly you treat people, how compassionately you treat people. They want to see that from their police force. A modern police force, a democratic police force, is impartial, but is compassionate and does its job just seeking the truth, not because it wants to prosecute somebody, or not because it wants to arrest somebody, but because it is seeking the truth, and the courts make the ultimate decision. And as I said at the very beginning, in that process, you're using your police powers, which are very extreme police powers in all places in the world, and sometimes you're using use of force options. So you are extraordinary in what you do, and there must be some extraordinary rules around what you do as well. And I think as the Maldives develops its democratic process, we will see a lot more rules, but we'll also see that you will become more confident with those rules and more comfortable with people oversighting what you do, auditing what you do, asking you questions about what you do. In the beginning, it's hard, because under the old system there was less scrutiny, less accountability. Under the new system there'll be much more, but you'll get used to it, because you'll get better at what you do, you'll be able to describe what you do, and you'll be more confident with what you do, and the public will be more confident with what you do. So those things are very important to me. And as I said at the very halfway through, what's really important, if I can leave you with just one thought, is this idea of loyalty to the police force and to the outcomes of your police force. Because anything that you do which loses public confidence and detracts from the public supporting you affects not just you, but all of your colleagues and the Commissioner of Police. So we're all in this together, and we've got to work together to be excellent, because if one of us fails, then often the people on the outside think all of us are failing. All of us actually are affected by the failure of another police officer. So can I just leave you with that thought? Now, I'm very